Local education nonprofit Sprout & Co. recently received a $10 million grant to build a super school in Somerville. The school will be called Powderhouse Studios and will utilize a unique educational model featuring year-round project-based learning. Scat TV's own teen interns, Ben Bortner and Desi Feldman, spoke with the Sprout & Co. co-founder, Alec Resnick, about the school.
Powderhouse Studios. It's a new school in Somerville. But other than that, not much information is known to the public. So we sat down with Alec Resnick, who is one of the people in charge of the whole project, to uncover some more information.
I'm Alec Resnick with Powderhouse Studios in Sprout.
What's your story? How did you get into this?
So I've been working at a small nonprofit called Sprout, just outside Davis Square for the past 8-9 years or so. I started with a couple of friends of mine after we met at MIT. So I was doing a small startup doing electromechanical design for educational tools and toys. 4 years ago, the mayor approached us about this idea of opening up a new school to kind of expand some of the programming that we've done and find some ways of working more closely with the public school system. And I'd say the two maybe biggest differences are, one, a lot of the school's designed to support people in coming up with their own projects and working on projects of their own design for most of their time. So in contrast to a traditional school where you're mostly thinking in terms of classes, even if you do projects in those classes, you're thinking about like your math class or your English class or whatever. We're thinking more in terms of supporting individuals working on larger and larger scale projects of their own design, even if those projects cut across many disciplines or don't necessarily look like a traditional academic class. The other big difference is that it's very small and kind of very intimate. So you would be coming in a class of 30 to 40 people, and they'd be mixed ages across, so there aren't grade levels. And you'd be staying with those 30 to 40 people for the full 4 or 5 years that you'd be with us. You also stay with the same staff who are working with you. But the staff aren't broken down by subject either. So like in a traditional school, you might have a math teacher or a science teacher. And with Powderhouse Studios, instead, you have a team of 3 core staff that are sticking with you. And in addition to whatever academic background they might bring, they're individually responsible for helping people to manage projects, develop curricula, and develop new seminars and projects that people can work on, and doing kind of social work, so bringing in support for all the non-academic things that might affect somebody. Those 3 people are helping you design and execute larger and larger projects over the course of the years that you're with us. And all the stuff that a high school is normally responsible for in terms of what might show up on a transcript or passing the MCAS, or maybe if you're taking the SAT, things like that, we still do. As you're working on these bigger and bigger projects over time, staff are working with you to map those things retrospectively back onto standards. So after you finish a project, you say, great, now that I've done this project, what do I have evidence that I've kind of covered or learned? Instead of a teacher thinking about, how do I teach this bit to these 20 or 30 people? They're instead thinking, sometime in the next few months, this one person should do a project that touches on X or Y or Z. So there's a lot more flexibility. If somebody decides to go to college, we'll generate a custom transcript that, for all intents and purposes, looks like a traditional transcript, but it'll also be accompanied by a very extensive project portfolio. Because we have flexibility in our scheduling, it starts at 10 a.m. instead of 8 and 7:30 a.m. And it runs till 5 p.m., but it's open year-round. So there are a lot of kind of implementation details are different. When somebody decides to go to college, the staff then sit down and go through a very time-intensive process of reviewing all of the people's projects, all of that student's projects, and the mapping that I was mentioning earlier that connects their projects back to traditional standards and generates a custom transcript. So the transcript that comes out will look pretty normal, even if you didn't actually take a biology class, but you did a bunch of projects that covered the majority of what you would cover in a traditional biology class, then you would get biology credit. So for us, we really don't want to see anything as extracurricular. So a very concrete example might be, let's say somebody wants to participate in varsity football at the high school, at Somerville High School. So we're not going to be big enough to have a varsity team, right? So somebody would have the option not only to try out for the varsity team, but to then cross-register into Somerville High School and leave our school at, say 2:30 or whenever they need to for practice, and go be on the football team there. And that might also turn into other projects or work that they do related to their interest in football. We're much more interested in finding the stuff that people are interested in and figuring out how you can let somebody spend as much time as possible on it. And we feel like the deeper that you go into the thing, the more you learn of. They're breaking ground next month on the campus, so hopefully it'll be ready by the summer of 2018.
We talked with some students who are currently attending Somerville High, and they gave us their opinion on what they think of Powderhouse Studios.
So I think this school is a great idea. It seems to provide a lot of opportunity to young students who want to do something more than this boring old school, you know?
I feel like the priority of school should be learning in any case, and tests don't really help me learn in general. So I think a project-based school is a good idea.
Project-based learning seems like a really interesting thing.
This new school, it sounds like a good idea, especially for like, I know there's a lot of kids at Somerville High School that, you know, don't really fit within the traditional learning environment.
Project-based learning is like a good way to actually teach us something instead of just stuffing knowledge down our throats.
The hours sound pretty good. I don't like waking up in the mornings. That's something I can say. I do like waking up later.
It seems to like get your mind working, you know, with all these fun and cool projects.
A new idea for, again, kids who you know, don't necessarily fit into the traditional learning environment, and it gives them an extra option that doesn't require them to pay lots of money or go to like somewhere far away.
Yeah, it generally sounds like a really cool idea. I wish it was around now.
The most fun I have in school is doing projects with my friends and just being creative in terms of learning.
Yeah, I'd definitely go to a school like this. I mean, it seems a lot more fun and creative than the current school I'm going to.
Me personally, I don't know if I would, because I like where I am at Somerville High School, but you know, if Somerville High School wasn't working for me, I probably would consider going to this school.
If I had the chance to go, I would.
Powderhouse Studios seems to be a very interesting and promising idea, and students seem to be very excited about it. Those of us in Somerville are very eager to see what happens to Powderhouse Studios. For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Ben Bordner.